Who controls the art market? The obvious answer are the intermediaries, galleries, auction houses, art fairs, and dealers. But more now than ever, the tides are starting to turn.
This will be the biggest disruption in the art world. The traditional art world hasn't really understood what is coming.
See, artists in the traditional art world are reasserting their agency, taking on more power in the art market. That was the promise of Web3. Of course, as we know, that's not worked out perfectly. So what does it all mean? On today's show, we break it down with Magnus Resch.
They think NFTs are gone, but it's the exact opposite. They haven't even started yet.
Art market expert, and Pablo Rodriguez-Fraile.
Collecting art is a privilege. So in order to do this, again, making it easy and accessible to everybody, I think is imperative.
One of the top digital art collectors in the world. This was a great show. Let's jump in. Welcome back to Vaulted by Proof. I'm Eli Scheinman, Director of Art at Proof and Yuga Labs. And on today's show, I want to talk about who's in control of the art market. Is it artists, collectors, gallerists, agents? And how are those dynamics shifting over time and into the future? I think it's a fascinating conversation. We have two incredible experts here to help us break it down. So first of all, I want to introduce Pablo Rodriguez-Fraile, digital art patron, amazing collector, founder of RFC. Pablo, I think you collected Beeple and Rafiq Anadol's very first NFTs. Is that right?
That is correct, Eli. Thank you very much for having me. It's always a pleasure to be in conversation with you.
Very excited. I think behind you, you have an Entangled Others or a Sofia Crespo from the Taschen book. You've always got so many great physicals around you. Very excited to dig in with you, Pablo. Thanks for joining us. And then we also have sort of representing a different perspective with a different form of expertise on the art market. We have Magnus Resch, who's an art market expert, author of 8 books, I think now, Magnus, lecturer at Yale. Actually, I have my How to Collect Art with me here. This is an important one for me, certainly. Magnus, great to have you back on the show.
Thanks for having me. Thanks a lot.
Very excited to jump in. I think actually, now that I think about it, this is your second time on both Pablo and Magnus. We've got a slightly different format for this one, but very excited and lots of meaty topics to dig into. But as we always do, let's start with something topical and talk about some art that you've both seen or collected recently. Maybe Pablo, I mentioned them, Entangled Others and Sofia Crespo. Let's start with you. What have you either collected or seen recently that you wanted to share?
Yeah, thank you very much. And that is, there's many things that I could highlight, but I think it's no secret that I have a soft spot for what both Sofia and her artistic studio is doing with Entangled Others as well. Most recently, there's a work that I'm not sure if I can share in the screen.
Yeah, please.
Yes, but there's a work that I've added to the collection that I think is extraordinary. I think that one of the great things that both Sofia and the studio does is that they go beyond just creating a digital creation, and they actually go deep into the research and the connection with the real and biological world. And this is let me here. This is a work or a series that is called Self-Contained.
Mm-hmm.
And what it does is that it's a work that explores the idea of digital evolution and mutation, through the lens of encoding and decoding. So getting some information, from the biological world on how these mutations happen through DNA, and encoding and decoding this through digital data. There's a connection to it. There's a physical aspect to it, and I just think it's a highly sophisticated way to present a work that I think is extraordinary. I don't know if it's you're able to hear. Yeah. This one in particular is not exactly the one that I have collected. The one that I have collected is a 4-channel work where, let's say, the part on the right is divided in 3 different channels, but the idea and composition is the same. And I've always been a big fan of the connection between nature and art, and I think that Sofia and Entangled Others really take this to to a highly sophisticated and compelling level.
Pablo, quick follow-up there. You, as I mentioned, you're such an OG collector, Beeple and Rafiq's first NFTs. What's your mental model for what you collect today? I mean, I think you recently, I think I saw you collected from Feileacan and that set of work that they just released. But what does a work have to do for you for it to be something that in this moment, it's something you want to go off and collect?
Yeah, and this is my view, and I'm nobody to define what art should be in any way. But I personally, together with my wife, we like works that go beyond just being a beautiful aesthetic. Certainly the aesthetic, I think it's always important, but we like sophisticated work that takes concepts and really intermingles them with the output. We like to get deep into the understanding of what they're trying to do and the narrative that the artists are telling us through their work. And again, I think that as we progress, this digital world is heavily maturing in this sense, where many of the works of the collections of the releases are actually going above and beyond just being a beautiful output.
Yeah, so well said and really interesting insight. Okay, Magnus, coming over to you, very curious to see what you have to share. What work or artist or collection has caught your attention here recently?
I'm bringing someone to your attention who many people already know, Sarah Mayohas. So this is for an upcoming show. It's a brand new series called Millionfold. And what Sarah did here is she built a custom 6-foot machine that uses pastels to create images based on mathematical data in her own photographs. So the machine essentially acts like an extension of her own hand.
Yeah.
And what I like about it is that it's really the perfect blend between, on the one hand, pastels, which is something very traditional, and all the French impressionists used it, and then very futuristic with having this machine and using mathematical data to draw.
I love it. Such a great share, Magnus. Okay, I have 2 anecdotes reacting to both of the artists you guys highlighted. So first, Magnus, starting with you, we visited Sarah in her studio. We saw these big drawing machines, these plotters, and then she actually contributed a work from that series, a very early iteration of it, to one of our prior exhibitions, Grails, I think season 5. So it was great to have Sarah in that show sharing some of that work as a preview that you just showed there. And then Pablo, with Sofia and Entangled Others, we are doing a dinner on October 18th, I believe, in Lisbon, co-hosted with Feileacan and Sofia. So if you are listening or watching this show and want to come to that dinner, hit me up, you're invited. Okay, let's transition now into sort of the meaty topics of the day in terms of the art market. I seeded this notion at the top of the show, which is who's in control and how are these power dynamics potentially shifting across the art market landscape? Magnus, maybe coming over to you first. I read your newsletter last week, and you brought up this notion of this disintermediation between artists and collectors, meaning galleries are potentially losing some of that control over the art market in the ways that have been so entrenched for so long. Just talk a little bit here about the way that you are either seeing and or projecting more power shifting to artists.
So the market as it is, and we're talking about the traditional art market, you have artists, and in order to get to stardom and actually make money, you need to go via galleries. There are 20,000 galleries, and only a few of these galleries actually help you to become successful. Now, what the whole NFT hype has taught us is that as an artist, you can actually make a lot of money without being part of this traditional gallery system. So you don't need galleries. However, what it also taught us is that, hey, as an artist, suddenly I have to deal with a lot of things. I have to deal with customers, I have to write invoices, I have to do all these things. And this is where a new role emerged, the role of an artist manager. So instead of working with a gallery, I'm now hiring an artist manager who takes care of my reputation, brand, selling, and so on. And I don't give them 50%, which is the industry standard in traditional art world, but I give the manager only 10 to 20%, similar to what UTA, CAA, and so on have been charging. It's something that we're seeing right now in the art world. In the movie industry, it happened in the 1930s. So we can learn a lot from there of what the art world will look like in 10 years.
I love that. Hey, and Magnus, are you still seeing a role for the gallery and gallerist? Meaning, is there sort of a more ad hoc partnership model where the artist manager and the artist goes and finds a gallery in a space per exhibition, and maybe there's some more fluidity there? Like, how does the gallery ultimately participate, if they do at all, over time in the art market?
So the galleries won't go away. I had yesterday one of the key gallerists in the world, Mark Glimscher, in my class at Yale. And also I had Max Teicher, who runs this super hyped artist agency that is currently the biggest in the art world. Now, when I asked them, hey, do you guys like each other? They both said, no, it's actually a very collaborative approach. Similar how galleries work with art advisors. They initially wanted to have the connection with the customer directly. And then art advisors popped up. They were like, oh, we don't want to talk to art advisor. But now art advisors are the gatekeeper to collectors, and galleries are happy to work with them. And we will see the same thing in the art world. I believe galleries are here to stay because it requires still someone that customer trust and someone's taste they trust. And but we will see less galleries, and we will see more people who thought they might open a gallery become artist managers.
Very interesting. And Magnus, sticking with you just here for another moment, how do you see blockchain and NFTs evolving to play a bigger role in the art market at large? Meaning, not only as a medium and a canvas for artists to produce work, but potentially other applications. What's your view on sort of how those two technologies, NFTs specifically, blockchain broadly, get integrated into the art world more deeply?
Yeah, I think this will be the biggest disruption in the art world. The art world, the traditional art world, hasn't really understood what is coming. And that is, they think NFTs are gone. But it's the exact opposite. They haven't even started yet. The blockchain hasn't even showed how it can impact the art world. I believe in the future, every painting that leaves the studio of an artist will be registered on the blockchain. So whenever this painting is traded, the artist not only finds out immediately, which is something that doesn't happen in traditional art world, but also gets paid immediately and gets paid consecutively. It has so many advantages. One is artists make more money. Secondly, artists are aware of what's going on. Thirdly, collectors now can trade much easier their pieces. In the past, they had to go to Sotheby's and pay 25% commission just so they approve that the work is authentic. In the future, it will all happen so much faster on platforms that charge a little commission. So the art market will become more liquid, and overall, everyone will benefit from it because this will draw more people, more buyers into the art world. I'm a big advocate of this, and I know it's going to happen. However, the art world is always last to adapt to change. So probably other industries like the watch industry and other luxury industries will come first, and then the art world and artists will realize, oh, that's actually beneficial for us. Let's do it.
Love it. And it's so interesting. You know, I seeded this notion again at the top where, you know, Magnus, you have this purview and this perspective that you just described, which is the traditional art world and market needs to evolve in ways that look a little bit more like the digital art NFT world. But in contrast, in some respects, Pablo, you're so deeply immersed in the NFT digital art ecosystem. And I believe, you know, one of your perspectives is, hey, actually, we need to borrow more and learn more from the traditional physical art market. We need long-term partnership between artists and intermediaries. Maybe first, what have you seen work less well? What has been problematic, perhaps, about disintermediating and having artists sort of off on their own without these right long-term partners?
Yeah, so again, my views here, and you know, Magnus is always so eloquent and so thoughtful about this, and I agree with a lot of the things that he mentioned. But On the contrary, I've seen exactly what Magnus said, that the artists right now are overwhelmed because they actually have to do absolutely everything. I believe that if you're taking art as a profession, then it requires surrounding yourself by other service providers, other people around you that are incentivized as well to expand your work. One of the problems that we're seeing in particular, and is being even more acute now, is that the large majority of platforms and galleries, let's say, in this NFT ecosystem, are finding no continuity, and even many of them closing down, many of them pivoting or reshaping their ways, because it's just simply impossible to survive under the current terms. I think that this does actually a disservice to the artists, because while yes, now the Web3 environment is extraordinary, that it allows many things that were not present in the more traditional contemporary art world, you still need some of this infrastructure in order to even show your work, in order to mint your work, in order to distribute your work. So, I am not saying forget about all of the good things from the Web3 environment. The opposite, like, let's take the best of this, but let's also get some learnings from how the traditional art market works. And I believe that we should have more long-term approach and joining together with people that do indeed add value. It is true that many galleries do not add value, and it doesn't have to be exactly the same. But I do think that most artists benefit from that continuity and from other people around investing the time, resources, network, and energy into becoming your ambassador. So I'm a general believer that we will see not only art managers, but some galleries that pop up that cater mostly to this world.
Yeah, so well said, Pablo. And I like the way that you contrast, but also, you can see in Magnus's view the things that are working so well, and in the Web3 digital art space as well. Okay, let's sort of segue a little bit here and talk about sort of audience and collector resonance and finding your people, meaning digital artists who are mostly today selling to digital art collectors and crypto native folks. How do they reach a brand new audience? This has been the promise of the auction houses, although we've seen that at Christie's and Sotheby's is mostly selling digital art to those same collectors. We saw some of these galleries. Magnus, you mentioned Mark at Pace. They had Pace Verso. Pace Verso sort of being reined in and maybe going away a little bit. And so some of the galleries a little bit more tepid now. At the same time, we're seeing institutions continue to lean in and educate and bring their audiences into and in front of digital art. Where I want to go with this, and maybe Pablo, we'll come back to you first, is how do digital artists, in your view, most effectively reach a new audience? And do you think sort of this whole notion of NFTs and its complex history is a roadblock? And if so, how do we get around that?
I have a lot of thoughts around this, Eli, as you know, and I've been again a champion of digital art, for a very long time. But in my own experience, I've come to realize that at the end of the day, we're humans, and there's nothing more powerful than a shared human experience. So I'm a big advocate of that physicality, and I'm a big advocate of the role that institutions play in order to broaden that that audience. The reality is that collecting art is a privilege. It is something that it is not neither accessible to everybody, and most people that do it, they do it as a hobby and not as a center of their life. So in order to do this, again, just making it easy and accessible to everybody, I think is imperative. And more physicality, more exhibitions, more institutions, and less barriers to entry. So the last point that I'll mention about this is, we cannot expect everybody in society to become blockchain sophisticated. We need to make the access extraordinarily easy, so that it is as simple as possible for others to participate. In my experience, is the only thing that has worked. And I continue to see it over and over, that's the only way to bring a new audience over. So
well said. And Magnus, now coming over to you, from your purview, how can digital artists more effectively reach a broader collector base? And I think the point that Pablo brings up around physicality, one of the dimensions of collecting high-end, high-value artwork is the social proof and the status element of that, in which in a physical artwork you can do quite easily by in your home showing that work. Much more challenging with digital artworks in many cases. What do you think, Magnus? How do digital artists reach more collectors and do so more effectively?
I don't think they should. Existing collectors in the traditional art market are 65 years old. They're not interested in digital art. 90% of works that are sold in the traditional art market are paintings. So it's just very hard to convert these people. Everyone is going after these people, really everyone. Every new gallery that is opening is going after these people, but they are already happy with the galleries that they're buying from. That's why only a fraction of galleries, there are 20,000 galleries, but only a few are actually making money. Why is that? Because these few collectors, those 6,000 collectors, they only buy from those established galleries and they will not change their taste. However, the much larger potential is not going after these people who are already being served, but it's going after those people who are already there, but not being served. Think about the 80,000 people who go to Art Basel Miami Beach every year, but only 1 or 2,000 people are buying something. I believe there are 20,000 people there who have the financial means who can actually buy something, but they haven't bought anything yet. It's the first-time buyers. And what are they looking for? They are interested in something, in an artwork, mostly for decorative reasons. Secondly, as an investment.
Yeah.
So let's serve to them. You can sell them digital art if it serves their purpose, which is filling the white space above the sofa. Might sound a little bit simple, but that is the reason why people are buying art. And we need to cater to this audience. Also, when it comes to price points, they're willing to spend less than $5,000 on art on their first purchase. So if you're priced over $7,000, which is the median price point at a gallery in the US, you're clearly outpricing your customers. So let's not go after those existing customers. They're being served, the art collectors. Let's go after art buyers, first-time buyers.
I love that you brought up that point, Magnus, around price point, because I believe both you and Pablo would express wholeheartedly that art is generally a very bad investment. And so if we are to reach a much larger collector base, i.e. all of those people who are attending Art Basel and not buying yet, having some sensibilities and some sensitivity to price point in making that work accessible, I think is highly important and very interesting. I think
Eli, one more thing. When you visit Pablo in his home, and I was fortunate to do this, you realize how great digital art can work alongside physical art. So he is really the perfect example where I felt, hey, I should collect more digital art, because how it is presented in his home is just perfect. The frames that he's using, he really spends a lot of time thinking about how to present it. So I think I had people in my class and he said, I believe in the future every artwork will be digital. I completely disagree. I think we will still have paintings, but we need to do this transition much more smoother. And in Pablo's home, it works really well. So I really believe in the future of digital art. The presentation is fundamentally important.
Love that. And we were talking before we hopped on about Beeple's new work and the sort of magic that exists in that form factor, but it still being a digital artwork at its core. Art Blocks, the platform, just came back with their first curated release in many months, and it has a physical form factor as well. And so could not agree more. And you're right, Pablo has just sort of the best curation of physical and digital together. Let's transition now into going into your respective art collections and your vaults, as it were. Pablo, let's start with you here. What's one artwork, as you look at that RFC collection with so many great pieces, that you want to highlight that perhaps sort of has some important narrative and story around it?
Well, thank you very much. And, thinking about this exercise, it was a very, very tough job to do this, because there's so many amazing creatives, and we're lucky to have such beautiful works in the collection. But there's one work that I bought several years ago now that I think really hits the mark for many reasons. It's a collaboration between André Reisinguet, RAC, and Arcade, which is a famous British poet, and it's a long form musical, spoken, and visual poem that I think it's extraordinary. Let me actually try to present it here. Let me find the screen. There we go. And it's a work that it's 10 minutes long, and again just tells so much narrative around it. I think that it's a work that translates very well for both the digital art audience as well as the more traditional folks around. And it's just a work that tells you so much through its three components. It's a beautiful also collaboration between three creators that are not three pieces just put together like this. It was created together, and for us it is a work that we really identify wholeheartedly with this work in many ways, and we believe that one of the strongest and most compelling works in the collection. I think it is a masterpiece. I think this belongs in a museum, and I think it's extraordinarily engaging in every way. Yeah,
I love it, Pablo. It's so interesting. I mean, in the crypto NFT space, attention spans are so small, and so for you to highlight a work that's 10 minutes in length, I love. So through that lens alone, I think is great. One follow-up for you, Pablo. When you think about building your collection as a whole, how do you balance the tension between going very deep and collecting perhaps only a few artists, but go extensively across their collections, versus this broader approach and perhaps collecting representative of the generative art movement and many artists? How do you think about building that collection as a whole?
It's a great question, and the reality is that we've changed over the years in our approach into how we do this. But for Desiree and I, it is very rare that we acquire a single artwork just because we like it. The reality is that certainly an artwork can get our attention, but we like to understand everything about the artist, everything about that particular collection, where it's coming from and where it's going, and we like to. We've come to the realization that there's just too many amazing creatives in the world right now, and if we want to actually do a service as collectors, as patrons of this movement, we can be a lot more efficient by focusing on less artists, but really going deep into their practice, and not only making acquisitions, but trying to help them as we can in everything around in their career. So again, for us, it's very important to have this comprehensive view and understanding of the artist and their practice, and it's something that we encourage now others to do as well.
I love it. And last one here, Pablo. Magnus brought up this point around the gallery being this sort of proxy for a tastemaker. For yourself and Desiree, in building your collection, do you look to others to play that role of tastemaker, or are you guys kind of heads down, what you like, collectively the two of you are making these decisions?
Yeah, so that question, again, I would say that our situation is a little bit of an outsider situation, because Desiree and I are fully involved in this ecosystem, and we're really, really extraordinarily active. So while I certainly maintain a lot of conversations with many people across all domains and to understand further, and we talk with just advisors on all of the sides, the reality is that for ourselves in particular, we're heavily involved. I would say though that we are not that this should not be the case for the majority of people. I see a lot of value in sharing, in getting information from other trusted sources to help you also make some of the decisions, particularly if you have a certain focus, as Magnus was saying before. Some people are mostly doing for decorative or for investment. Our case is a little bit different. In that case, there's many experts around that can certainly help in that regard, and people that I admire. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, Magnus, you and I had a conversation very early this year, so a number of months ago now, but you were bringing up this point that actually it's the large collectors in many cases in the digital art ecosystem who are playing the role of tastemaker and so-called sort of influencer on taste in a way that wasn't always true, and maybe still is not entirely true in the traditional art market. But Magnus, coming over to you now, as you look at your collection, what's one piece, one collection, one artist you wanted to highlight?
So I thought about this. This piece here, why am I showing it? Because it's the first piece I ever bought.
Wow.
So I interviewed for my books, I interviewed so many people, and I always asked them, so what's the most valuable piece to you? And so many of them said the first piece that they bought, and not in terms of financial value, but really emotional value. So this I bought, it's an edition. I was surprised when I Googled it. I was surprised that it's now selling for 6,000 euros because I bought it for 400 Deutsche Mark, which is $200. So talking about a good investment, I think that's a good one, right? A German, it's a German artist who's not really super well known. But why I bought it, I think 16. I bought it because I thought, wow, this guy is really old. So if he passes, then probably it increases in value. And because I liked it. Turns out this guy died when he was 101 years old. Wow. So I had to wait a little bit for a value increase there. A German abstract artist always works with these very minimal and bold colors. Uses color as the main focus point and creates this very intimate but still very powerful experience. So I was drawn to it because I just liked it. I found it accessible. But great. The interesting thing is we need to convince more people to buying art, and it always starts with the first art piece. Yeah. You cannot expect. I wrote it in my book, right? Which you showed before, How to Collect Art. And for this, I interviewed so many of the biggest collectors, and I always asked them, "What's your one-liner of advice for someone who's starting to collect?" And they all said, "Just see as much art as you can." Yeah. And don't invest in art. Don't buy with your ears. Just buy what you like. It sounds so simple. I'm an economist. I was never satisfied with that answer. Buy what you like. Come on. Give me more, right? Give me some numbers. Give me data. But essentially, after having written my PhD and so many studies and so on, buy what you like is the perfect answer, because most likely whatever you buy will not show a financial return, but it will give you so much more. It's not a financial investment. It's an investment in yourself, an investment in the artist. You're supporting an artist. You're supporting a gallery. You're supporting a whole community often. And that's why you buy art. The emotional value you get from living with art is so much more powerful than seeing another return on your investment. Really, for this, you can buy stocks through Goldman Sachs. Congratulations to that. But you get way more pleasure, a much bigger network, way more fun just by buying art. And hey, for those people who are listening to it, you cannot go wrong with your first piece. Again, I spoke to so many collectors. They all refer to their first piece as the most powerful and beautiful one that they ever bought. Don't overspend on your first piece. Yeah. There is no good art or bad art. Whatever you like is good art. So go out and spend money, less than $1,000 I would recommend for your first piece, and get into this. And trust me, you will not regret it.
Hell yeah. I love that, Magnus. So well said, and appreciate the passion and the really incisive view on how to get started in collecting in a way where you can foster this relationship with the process of collecting that ultimately you love and becomes a part of you. So well said. I've loved this show. It's wonderful to have you both on and riff and sort of talk about everything happening in the art market right now and where we're going. Also, very importantly, Pablo, where should people follow you? Where can people find you?
Well, I think, I am very active in Twitter under Pablo R. Fraile is my handle. Usually with some contrarian takes around, so happy to engage. And then I know for our collection and the way that we live, we try to have the the website rfc.art, rather updated, and you can see a lot of our practice there.
That's great. And Magnus, where would you like people to find and follow you?
Yeah, Twitter, Instagram. It's my name, Magnus Resch, R-E-S-C-H, Magnus. Not really super active on either. I'm not posting daily, but I respond to every message. I really do.
Wonderful. And I'll just say, subscribe to Magnus's newsletter.
Yeah, in order to subscribe, just write me an email. And this is how I know if people are actually interested in reading it. They have to write me an email and then I add them. So it's magnus@magnusresch.com. Just my name, Magnus@magnusresch. And then I add you to my newsletter, which is quarterly. So don't expect emails every day.
Good point. I was wondering how I ended up on that list, Magnus. Now I know.
Just friends and family and new friends.
I love it. Okay, well, this has been a wonderful show, wonderful episode of Vaulted. Thank you both so much, and thank you everyone for listening. We'll see you next week.